On October 3rd, 2025, a 2004 sedan rolled into my shop for a routine oil change, and when I punched the plate into the system, I had to read the number twice. 517,000 miles. Original engine, original transmission. The owner was a retired courier in his 70s who bought the car new, and when I asked him what his secret was, he laughed and said something I have been thinking about ever since. He said, "There is no secret. I just never gave it a reason to break." Today, I am going to unpack exactly what that sentence means, because after 2 decades in this business, I have now seen a handful of cars cross the 500,000-mile mark. And here is what nobody tells you. They were not special cars. They were not rare engines or lucky builds. Every single one of them belonged to an owner doing the same handful of quiet, boring, almost invisible habits. Not one of those habits costs real money. Most of them cost nothing at all. And by the end of this video, you will know every one of them. But first, let me clear something up, because the internet has poisoned this topic. When people hear 500,000 miles, they imagine a garage queen that never sees rain or some mechanical unicorn. The truth is closer to the opposite. The cars that die at 150,000 miles and the cars that sail past 400,000 are usually the same models, sometimes built in the same month, on the same assembly line. The difference is not the machine. The difference is the pattern of decisions made around the machine, thousands of small decisions stacked over 20 years. And here is the uncomfortable truth behind why you have never heard this framed honestly. There is no money in it. Nobody profits when your car lasts. The dealership wants you back in a new one every 6 years. The parts industry is built on replacement, not prevention. Even the repair side of my own industry, and I say this as someone who has spent his life in it, earns its living on failure. A car that quietly runs forever generates almost no invoices. So, the knowledge exists. Every veteran mechanic knows it, but nobody is paid to hand it to you. Consider this video me handing it to you. Habit number 1. And I am starting here because it is the one that separates the 500,000-mile owners from everyone else more than any other. They treat the first few minutes of every drive as sacred. Not idling in the driveway for 10 minutes. That old habit actually does more harm than good on a modern engine, washing fuel past cold piston rings while the engine warms at its slowest possible rate. What they do is simpler. They start the car, give it maybe 30 seconds while they buckle up, and then drive gently, light throttle, easy speeds, no hard pulls, until the temperature gauge reaches the middle. Here is why this one habit is worth more than almost anything you can buy. When your engine is cold, the oil is thick and slow, the pistons have not expanded to their designed running clearances, and metal parts are moving with less protection than they will have at any other moment. Engineers will tell you that a large share of all engine wear happens in those first minutes after a cold start. The courier with the 517,000-mile sedan told me he thought of a cold engine like a cold hamstring. You can sprint on it once and get away with it. Do it every morning for 20 years and you will pay. Habit number 2 flows straight out of the first one, and it is the silent killer hiding in millions of driveways. The 500,000-mile cars almost never lived on short trips. A 5-minute drive to the store is, mile for mile, the hardest thing your car ever does. The engine never fully warms, so moisture and raw fuel that blow past the rings during warm-up never boil out of the oil. The exhaust never gets hot enough to evaporate the water condensing inside it, so it rusts from the inside. The battery spends more energy starting the engine than the drive puts back. Do this daily and your oil turns into a milky, acidic mess between changes while the odometer barely moves. This is why a 100,000-mile highway car is often healthier inside than a 60,000-mile city car. Now, I want to be honest with you, because some of you cannot change where you live or how far you drive, and I am not telling you to move. What the long-haul owners do when short trips are unavoidable is simple. They combine errands into one longer loop instead of 4 cold starts. And once a week or so, they make sure the car gets a solid 20 to 30 minutes of steady driving to cook the moisture out. That one weekly drive is cheap medicine. Habit number 3 is the one everyone thinks they already do, and almost nobody actually does. They change the oil by severe service intervals, not by the marketing number. Here is the trap. Your manual might say 10,000 miles under normal conditions, and then 2 pages later it defines severe service as short trips, stop-and-go traffic, extreme heat, extreme cold, towing, or dusty roads. Read that list again. That is not severe. That is just driving. Almost everyone qualifies. Every 500,000-mile owner I have met changed their oil somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 miles with a quality oil and a decent filter, and they did it on time, every time for the entire life of the car. Not obsessively early, not with exotic boutique oil, just consistently, with no skipped intervals, no, I'll get to it next month. Oil is not really a lubricant to these owners. It is the cheapest insurance policy ever sold, renewed religiously. Habit number 4 is where the long-haul owners quietly diverge from everyone else, because this one requires believing in something you cannot see. They change the fluids nobody talks about. Transmission fluid, coolant, brake fluid, differential oil if the car has one. Here is what 20 years in the Bay has taught me. Engines rarely kill high-mileage cars. Transmissions do. And the transmission that fails at 180,000 miles almost always spent its life on factory-fill fluid that everyone was told was good for a lifetime. Well, technically that was true. It lasted the lifetime of the transmission because it defined the lifetime of the transmission. The 500,000-mile owners drained and refilled transmission fluid every 50,000 to 60,000 miles, long before it burned. They flushed coolant on schedule because old coolant turns acidic and eats water pumps, heater cores, and head gaskets from the inside. They changed brake fluid every few years because it absorbs water and corrodes the most expensive parts of the brake system silently. None of these services is glamorous. Each one, done on time, deletes an entire category of catastrophic failure from your future. Habit number 5. They fix small things immediately, and this might be the deepest one on the list, because it is really a mindset wearing a coverall. A small oil leak, a slight coolant smell, a belt that chirps on cold mornings, a tire losing 2 pounds of air a week. Most drivers file these under keeping an eye on it, which in my experience means ignoring it until it escalates. The long-haul owners treat every small symptom as a scheduled appointment with a cheap repair, because they understand something most people learn the expensive way. In a car, problems do not stay the same size. The $40 valve cover gasket that drips onto a hot exhaust becomes a burned wiring harness. The slow coolant loss nobody investigates becomes an overheated engine and a warped head. Neglect compounds like debt. Attention compounds like savings. That is the entire philosophy in 2 sentences. Habit number 6 is the one you can start today without spending a cent. They drive smoothly, all the time, everywhere. Not slowly, smoothly. There is a difference. Gentle acceleration away from lights. Braking early and lightly instead of late and hard. Looking far enough down the road that the car rarely has to do anything sudden. Every violent input, every hard launch, every panic stop, every pothole taken at full speed sends a shockwave through hundreds of components. Engine mounts, transmission clutches, suspension bushings, wheel bearings, CV joints. One hard hit means nothing. 50,000 of them write the ending. The courier put it best. He said he drove every mile like there was a full cup of coffee on the dashboard. 500,000 miles. And he never needed a suspension overhaul because his suspension never absorbed the abuse that wears one out. Habit number 7 is the least mechanical item on this list, and it might quietly be the most powerful. They keep the underside of the car clean. Rust ends more cars than engine failure ever will, especially anywhere roads are salted in winter. The body can look showroom perfect while the subframe, brake lines, and fuel lines dissolve underneath. The long-haul owners wash the undercarriage regularly through winter, every week or two when the salt is down, and many of them apply an oil-based rust-proofing treatment to the underbody every fall. It is one of the cheapest services in the entire automotive world, and it protects against the one failure mode that no repair can honestly reverse. A caveat, because I promised you honesty. If you live somewhere without road salt, this habit matters far less for you. Count yourself lucky and spend the attention elsewhere on this list. Habit number 8. They keep the electrical foundation healthy, and this is the modern habit, the one that did not matter in 1990 and matters enormously now. A weak battery in a modern car is not just a slow start problem. Every module in the vehicle depends on stable voltage, and when a tired battery lets voltage sag, computers misbehave, store false codes, and adapt around electrical noise. I have watched drivers chase phantom transmission problems and mystery warning lights for months, when the real problem was a 5-year-old battery and a corroded ground connection. The 500,000-mile owners replace the battery proactively around the 4 to 5 year mark rather than waiting for the morning it dies. And they keep the terminals clean and tight, boring, cheap, and it quietly protects every computer in the car. And habit number 9, the one that ties all the others together. They keep records, and they keep the same hands on the car. Every one of those high-mileage owners could show me a folder, or these days a phone note, listing every service ever done. That is not sentimentality. It means nothing gets skipped and nothing gets done twice. It means when something does go wrong, the diagnosis starts from knowledge instead of guesswork. And most of them had the same shop, or the same set of hands, on the car for decades, a mechanic who knew the vehicle's history the way a family doctor knows a patient. Continuity catches problems early. Strangers start from zero every time. Now step back and look at this list as a whole, because the pattern is the point. Warm it up gently. Avoid cold, short trips. Change the oil on real intervals. Change the forgotten fluids. Fix small things now. Drive smoothly. Keep the salt off. Keep the voltage stable. Keep the records. There is not one impressive thing on that list. No additive, no secret product, no trick. And that is exactly why so few people do it. These habits pay you nothing this week. They pay you nothing this year. They pay you in year 12, when the transmission that should have failed simply does not, and in year 18, when the car everyone told you to replace is still starting on the first turn of the key. Longevity is not an event. It is an absence of events, stretched over decades. I will leave you with the flip side of the courier's line, because it has stayed with me. Cars almost never die of old age. They die of accumulated neglect. 1,000 small moments where doing nothing was easier than doing something small, which means most of the cars in the junkyard did not have to be there. And it means the car sitting in your driveway right now, whatever the badge says, whatever the odometer says, has more life left in it than you have probably been led to believe. You just have to stop giving it reasons to break. If this changed how you think about what your car is actually capable of, hit that like button so it reaches the next driver about to give up on a perfectly good vehicle. Subscribe, because every week I break down the quiet knowledge this industry has no incentive to give you. And I want to hear it in the comments. What is the highest mileage you have ever put on one car, and what do you credit for getting it there? Because after 20 years in the shop, I can tell you the best longevity secrets I know did not come from a manual. They came from owners who simply refused to quit on their cars, and whose cars returned the favor.